in terms of being the manager of Celtic, did you feel pressure at all? And how did you cope with that?
Of course, yes, because I don't think you're really prepared. I should have been in many aspects. I'd say should have been. I knew what Celtic was all about. I knew, obviously, from being Northern Ireland, if you're brought up a Catholic, chances are you were supporting Celtic. If you're a Protestant, chances are you're supporting Rangers. So I knew all about the Celtic-Rangers rivalry, things that you see. But I'm not really sure now, even now, as I think I'm talking to you, I'm not sure that I was really prepared for the scrutiny that you're put under. I used to think that football was about the back pages, but when Celtic and Rangers are up there in Scotland, it's not just the back pages, it's not just the second back pages. You could go back to the middle pages of any given red top, and you find yourself, geez, this is incredible. So scrutiny. And not just a match, not just a pre-match, but almost a daily scrutiny about what's happening. And they say that Barcelona and Real Madrid have the same problems all the time, but nothing seemed to prepare you for that. So would I have changed my mind about taking the job? Not really. It was a natural privilege to becoming manager of Celtic, but they'd been in the doldrums for quite some considerable time. So I felt as if I could turn it round. Well, I was hoping that I could turn it round, obviously, and lucky enough that I was able to do so. But again, I take your point entirely. I'm not really sure that I was prepared for the sort of over scrutiny that a manager or some of the players would have had during that time.
Does that get exhausting, Martin? Because you mentioned in a different sense, Madrid, Barcelona. I remember reading Guardiola's book, and he said in terms of the political issues in Catalonia, it gets exhausting being the manager of Barcelona. Did you ever feel that at Celtic, that it can be exhausting of the demand? And you mentioned the newspapers, and I'm intrigued to hear if that impacted your mental health at all, or anything along those lines.
Okay, a good point. The most important thing is not to allow exhaustion to take place. You can be exhausted the minute the final game of the season is over. You maybe think to yourself, listen, I'll get a week in Portugal or something like that and recharge. But you cannot allow yourself to be exhausted. And I mean this really, particularly up at Celtic. I think this applies to a job anywhere. But you can't allow yourself to be exhausted, because the minute you start thinking it, you will be it. You'll be exhausted. You will find reasons not to do some things. You've got to. I just feel the one thing that I did have. I felt I had two things. I had a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. I've had that, all my time. So I cannot let any of those things win. Bad results can knock you. Of course they can. They can severely damage you if you're. And I must admit that this seems a contradiction, is that I did mull over defeats for a lot longer than perhaps I should have done. But the minute let's say Saturday you got beaten in the game up in Scotland, by Tuesday I had to forget about it. So I had a long weekend of mulling over things, and I'm fortunate. I'm one of those managers who takes it home with me as well too. I can't leave it to the side. Never been able to do that. But by the time that come round again, I'm ready to go, and you have to be really up for it. So I didn't allow myself to be exhausted by the time. Plenty of time to be exhausted, as I said to you, when you're lying on a beach somewhere in Mallorca or Portugal for a week or so or something like that. That's fine.
Did you, with that position at Celtic, did you have to kind of take your emotion away from the role? Just because obviously you mentioned that growing up you were a Celtic fan. Did you have to kind of take that emotional element out? Because, if you make decisions with emotion, they could obviously jeopardize the way things plan out. I'm just intrigued on your leadership and management there.
It's a very, very good point. It's a very good point indeed. Maybe involuntarily I might have been doing that, but I never felt during the time. I did make emotional decisions. I absolutely did. My assistant manager, called John Robertson, a brilliant footballer, John used to call it gut instinct. And I made a lot of gut instinct decisions on things. And it wasn't one of those where I felt as if, and I have said this before, and it's worth repeating, I never made a right decision, in the sense when I made a decision, I tried to make it right. If that was the case, I couldn't. There's no such thing. I never felt as if there's a right or wrong decision, unless it's something absolutely staring you straight in the face. But overall, no, I did made a lot of gut instinct decisions, and I would call them possibly emotional in many aspects. I tried many a time to divorce myself from that and just step back again and think about it again. But it's sometimes just to feel as if, yeah, I'm getting involved in that. And some of my managerial decisions, like going to manage Sunderland, for instance, that was totally emotional. So I wanted to go heart ruling ahead. You look at Sunderland, and the team hadn't been good for quite a number of years, but I thought, yeah, I'm wanting to manage it because they're my boyhood team. In that sense. So yes, so I have to say, so I don't know whether I disappoint you in my answer, but I did make a lot of the most emotional decisions.
Just a quick one to let you know that over 90% of those that watch this channel do not subscribe. So if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button down below. The bigger the channel, the bigger the guests, and more importantly, it's absolutely free. Enjoy the episode.
So obviously at Leicester City, you won the League Cup, Celtic, the UEFA, the Cup run in Seville, Aston Villa as well, the League Cup final against Manchester United. How would you deal with the highs and lows of football? I'm just intrigued to how you cope with that.
Well, it's interesting because there have been a lot of changes taking place. My career now, both as a player and as a manager, spans 50 years. So I've seen a lot of changes that have taken place in the game. And if you're talking even about mental health issues and things like this here that are big, that would have not been considered in certainly my early days of management, and certainly never in football. You never felt that it was never really talked about. But I did have in my experiences as a manager one or two players who had mental health issues, and I learned a great deal from them because I didn't really know that much about it. And just listening to them and actually realizing that listen, it didn't matter how much money they might have been earning, that these lads would have a problem or two, and it was by listening to them that I started to learn a little bit more. And I must admit, I didn't become aware until they taught me through them. And not for 1 minute did I consider myself a father figure, but the very fact is that they were prepared, these lads, to open up to me in a certain sense of as a manager. I did perhaps maybe take on that sort of more avuncular feeling than anything else. But in terms of me dealing with the highs and lows of the game, the highs can be very high, and the lows can be like the nadir, really, really can be. And those moments, I feel that you have to get over. You're hoping that you might get a little bit of help from other people, perhaps maybe family around. But at the end of the day, yes. And there are, regardless of how you managed and regardless of how successful you are, you will have a lot of low moments in your time, both as a player, but particularly as a manager, because you feel as if there's pressure. The pressure on you is to have a winning team selfishly for yourself, but you feel as if you're dealing with a lot of people. As a player, you feel as if you're dealing with yourself. Of course, you have a manager to please, but here suddenly you have the supporters to concern yourself with, because if you're not winning some football matches, as I didn't do in my early days at Leicester, and the Leicester City fans let me know about it as well too, in one certain fashion. Thankfully, I was able to turn that round, and I had a great relationship with the Leicester City fans during my time there, but not initially. So, yeah. So from a viewpoint of dealing with the highs and lows, I found a wee bit more, with possibly a little bit more experience as I got as a manager. I felt as if maybe I could deal with him. But I might just be saying that just maybe even to cover myself. Maybe I never really, found the answer to it. I'm not so sure that I did. And maybe I haven't even got the answer to it now.
What about different personalities, Martin, that you've you've coached or
I
you've,
love that.
you've
I
kind of,
love that was really interesting.
yeah.
Really interesting. You do have almost every single player you're dealing with that different, somewhere along the way, the different personality to the other fellow. Yeah, I had genuinely, I love that aspect of it, dealing with characters, dealing with big egos, dealing with lads who had no phenomenal self-esteem at all, and that you're trying to boast to them, considering that they have definite talent, but they don't really believe in themselves. So I loved that. I actually liked occasionally putting the big egos down, particularly in the dressing room. I did enjoy that aspect of it as well too. So yeah, all of that there just was really part of management, but part of my. I felt that I could deal with those. I never felt that there was anybody that had insurmountable concerns or something like this. Of course, when a player might come in and wonder why he's not in the team, and you have to deal with a player, if he had a bit of an ego, I really didn't mind telling him he wasn't in the team because he wasn't good enough. But other players who maybe who maybe couldn't have handled those situations, then you maybe deal with them in a different fashion. I started off, let me put it this way. I started off in management feeling as if I will treat everyone the same. I'm not so sure that that was the case.